I never imagined I'd be starting over at 60. Not like this. Not after everything I gave. Not after everything I lost. It had only been 6 months since my husband, Robert, passed. 40 years together, gone in a blink. I buried him in October. By Thanksgiving, the house felt like a coffin with heat. Every creaking floorboard reminded me I was alone. So when my daughter, Emily, said, "Mom, why don't you come live with me for a while?" I thought maybe the universe hadn't completely turned its back on me. Emily was always my sunshine girl. Ever since she was 5 and insisted on dressing herself in mismatched socks and fairy wings, she lit up every room. She was brilliant, independent, headstrong. I was proud, too proud, maybe, to ever admit I was scared of losing her to the world. And now here she was, all grown up, inviting me into her new life. When I pulled into her driveway that cold January morning, her house looked like something out of a Pottery Barn catalog. Pristine lawn, soft yellow curtains in the windows, a little welcome sign made of driftwood by the door. But the second I walked in, I noticed something else, something under the surface. Tension. Like the walls were holding their breath. Travis, her fiancé, was polite enough. Tall, clean-shaven, the kind of man who shakes your hand with just enough pressure to assert himself but not quite enough to make you feel safe. He smiled with his teeth, but not his eyes. I told myself not to judge. I was a guest. I was here to grieve quietly and be supportive. At first, things went smoothly. I cooked dinner, did the dishes, helped Emily organize the spare bedroom that was now mine. She was working late most days, and Travis worked from home in what he called his home office, which was really just the den with the door always closed. I kept to myself, tried not to intrude. But it was hard not to notice the way he talked to her. "Did you need to wear that blouse? Why were you 5 minutes late? Are you seriously going to eat that much?" I pretended not to hear. But I heard everything. Every sigh, every eye roll, every insult disguised as a joke. I bit my tongue until it bled. Emily had always been strong, wasn't she? But there was something different in her now. Something dimmer. One night, we were eating dinner, meatloaf and mashed potatoes, just like I used to make when she was little. Travis was upstairs, on a call. Emily looked tired. Really tired. Her shoulders were caved in like she was trying to disappear into her seat. She picked at her food more than she ate it. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "are you happy?" She blinked like I'd slapped her. I continued quickly, "He seems intense, that's all. I just want to know if you're sure. About him. About the wedding." Her fork clinked against the plate. Her eyes were sharp now, and her voice went flat. "Don't start, Mom." "I'm not starting anything," I said. "But I raised you to trust your gut. And if something feels off." I said don't, she snapped. Then softer, "You don't know him. You've been here, what, 3 weeks? I know what I see. And what I hear. And I'm not accusing, just asking. Are you sure he's being faithful?" That's when everything shattered. Her face turned to stone. She stood up, pushed her plate away, and without another word, stormed upstairs. I sat alone at the table for a long time, the food going cold on my plate. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak in the hallway made my chest tighten. I thought maybe in the morning, we'd talk. Maybe she'd understand I was just trying to protect her. Maybe, just maybe, we'd laugh it off. But in the morning, I woke up to garbage bags on the porch. My clothes. My shoes. My framed photo of Robert, cracked down the middle. Everything I brought with me, shoved into trash bags like leftovers after a dinner no one wanted. I hadn't said anything cruel. I hadn't shouted. I'd just asked a question. But in that house, that was the greatest sin. And Emily, my sunshine girl, had gone dark. I stood there, barefoot on her porch, breath fogging in the morning chill, staring down at my life in black plastic. My nightgown flapped in the wind like a flag of surrender, but I wasn't ready to raise it. Not yet. Emily? I called into the house. No answer. I stepped inside, half of me hoping this was a cruel misunderstanding, the other half already knowing better. She was in the kitchen, arms folded, lips pressed into a thin, hard line. Travis leaned against the counter behind her, smirking. Smirking. Like he was proud of something. What is this? I asked, voice trembling. Emily didn't look at me. She looked through me. You crossed a line. I asked a question. No, you accused. You came into my home and planted poison. You're always doing that. Always judging. Always thinking you know best. Travis cleared his throat, like he was about to say something monumental. It's probably best if you leave today. For everyone's peace of mind. I looked at Emily. I didn't even glance at him. Is that what you want? She didn't answer. She just turned her back and started making coffee. Like I was the mail that had already been delivered. I walked out the door without another word. My hands shook as I lifted the bags into the trunk of my car. My back ached with every bend and twist, but I didn't stop. The worst pain wasn't physical, it was the ripping sound inside my chest, like something was being torn apart. And then, as I was closing the trunk, I heard it. Her voice. Shouting. Loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. She's not well, okay? She's been acting off. She thinks my fiancé is cheating on me. She's got, what's it called, paranoia. Delusions. Bizarre accusations. I turned around slowly. Emily was standing on the porch, yelling to a neighbor who had paused mid-dog walk, unsure whether to help or run. This old lady is losing it, Emily went on. Seriously. I think she needs help. Like, real help. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was stunned. Dazed. Betrayed. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. How do you argue with someone you changed diapers for? With someone you held through night terrors? How do you defend yourself when your very existence is being rewritten by the one person who used to call you, Mommy, with stars in her eyes? I got in the car and drove. I didn't know where. I didn't care. The motel I ended up at didn't ask questions. $42 a night. Floral bedspread. Buzzing fridge. A TV bolted to the dresser like someone might steal it if they could. It was fine. It was shelter. It was nowhere near her. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my nightgown, staring at the plastic bags stacked against the wall. I didn't cry. Not yet. My body hadn't caught up to the grief. Instead, I kept hearing her voice, sharp, cold, unrecognizable. This old lady is losing it. I felt like I'd stepped into someone else's story. Like this wasn't real. Like this was some Lifetime movie where the villain wasn't the abusive fiancé, it was me. The mother. The witch. At midnight, I finally opened one of the bags. Robert's photo was at the top. The frame cracked, the glass shards threatening to slice my fingers. I held it to my chest and whispered, "You wouldn't believe what she's become." But part of me knew he would. He had warned me, years ago. She loves hard, but she burns bridges when she thinks she's been crossed. Watch her temper, honey. And I had. I'd watched it grow from tantrums over bedtime to full-blown fights with friends, broken leases, ghosted relatives. But I always told myself she was young. She'd outgrow it. She didn't. And now I was the latest casualty. In the morning, I checked my phone. One message. Emily, hope you're okay. Please don't contact me for a while. I need space. And I don't want Travis upset anymore. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let's talk. Just silence, wrapped in condescension. I stared at the screen until it blurred. Then I powered the phone off. It was time to accept what I hadn't dared admit until now. My daughter had chosen a man over me. And I was no longer her mother. Just her inconvenient witness. Days bled into nights. Nights bled into nothing. I lived in that motel for 3 weeks, eating cold vending machine sandwiches and nursing instant coffee like it had answers. The silence was suffocating, not just from Emily, but from the universe itself. It felt like the world had turned its back on me. 1 minute, you're a mother. The next, you're a warning sign, do not interfere. Do not ask questions. Do not love too loudly. I started writing letters to Emily. Not to mail them, God knows she'd just block me harder, but to survive. Every night, I'd sit on that scratchy motel comforter and pour my soul onto a legal pad. I didn't mean to question your choices. I meant to protect you. Do you remember the time you fell off your bike and refused to cry until I kissed your knee? That's all I was doing again. Trying to kiss your hurt. But I never sent them. She didn't want words. She wanted absence. And I gave her that, at a terrible cost. On the 3rd Sunday, I finally ventured out. I needed fresh air, and to stop counting motels' ceiling stains like constellations. I drove to the old town square, where they still put up seasonal flags and overpriced antique shops sold junk as vintage Americana. That's where I ran into Karen. Karen had known Emily since Girl Scouts. Her daughter, Beth, and Emily were once inseparable, until Emily cut her off in college over some petty argument I never fully understood. Karen hugged me like I was a widow twice over. We heard what happened, she said gently. Emily's been distant. People are worried. My spine straightened. Why? What have you heard? Karen looked away, lowering her voice. She's changed. Ever since Travis came into the picture. She doesn't answer calls. She quit brunch group. Last week, Beth saw her at the pharmacy. Emily had a bruise on her wrist and flinched when Beth touched her shoulder. My stomach turned. She said she fell, Karen added quickly. But, you know, it's how she said it. Like she was rehearsing. That night, I lay awake with the motel lights buzzing above me. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow circles, like a carousel of denial. And something hardened in me. I wasn't going to be silent anymore. I didn't storm back to her house. I wasn't stupid. I knew confrontation wouldn't work. Emily was in too deep now, emotionally entangled with a man who clearly wanted her isolated, obedient, and blind. But I could educate myself. I called a women's center the next day. Not for me, but to ask questions. What signs should I look for? How do abusers manipulate not just their victims, but everyone around them? What's the difference between controlling behavior and just being protective? The woman on the line was patient. She listened. She gave me resources. And when I said, "My daughter thinks I'm the problem," she replied, "That's how it always starts. You become the villain because you're the only one telling the truth." Her words sank in like a bitter medicine. I started keeping a journal, not a petty diary of motherly resentment, but a record. Dates. Times. Things I remembered Travis saying. Changes in Emily's behavior. Incidents relayed to me by others. The bruise. The isolation. The sudden volatility. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it, but I knew I had to have it. And then, on a cold, cloudy Wednesday, I saw her. Emily. At the grocery store. She looked thinner. Her hair was tied back in a tight bun, as if that alone could keep her life from unraveling. I watched from behind the produce section as she picked up apples, then put them back down, as if the weight of choosing was too much. I walked up slowly. Emily. She turned, startled. Her eyes flickered, guilt? Fear? Anger? I couldn't tell. "Mom," she said, flatly. "What are you doing here?" Shopping, I said, keeping my voice low. Same as you. A pause. She looked away. You shouldn't be here. I didn't follow you, if that's what you're thinking. I live in this town too. Remember? She didn't respond. I just want to know you're okay. I'm fine, she snapped, too quickly. Travis and I are happy. You're the one who caused drama. My throat tightened. I didn't mean to cause anything. But if you're not okay, if you ever need help, you can call me. Anytime. Day or night. No questions asked. She stared at the apples in her hand like they were going to rescue her. I'm not being abused, she whispered, more to the fruit than to me. So stop acting like I am. Then she walked away. Did I believe her? No. Not entirely. But I saw something in her posture, shoulders hunched, footsteps heavy, that screamed louder than words ever could. I stood there in the grocery aisle long after she left, alone among the apples and oranges, trying to make peace with the fact that sometimes a mother's job isn't to rescue. It's to wait in the shadows. To watch. To remember. To be ready. Because when the fall comes, and it always comes, it's the quiet ones who pick up the broken pieces. By April, spring had dressed the town in tulips and lies. Emily had gone completely silent. No texts. No calls. Not even the usual passive-aggressive posts she used to litter Facebook with. It was as if she'd been erased, not just from my life, but from her own. But silence doesn't fool a mother. Not when she's spent 3 decades decoding every sigh, every fake smile, every "I'm fine" that means the exact opposite. So I kept watching. From a distance. I made friends I never thought I'd need, the women at the shelter, a retired detective who ran a safety blog, a barista named Cole who worked near Emily's office and always said she looked haunted. And my journal grew thicker. Every time someone mentioned her, I wrote it down. The time she wore long sleeves on a 90-degree day. The time someone saw Travis slam a car door so hard she flinched. The time her friend Megan said she wasn't allowed to go out for drinks anymore. Still, I waited. Because confronting her again would only push her further into that man's orbit. I knew how this worked now. He needed me to be the villain. He needed her to believe I was toxic. That way, the only voice she'd listen to was his. Until one day, something cracked. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I was folding motel laundry and Judge Judy was yelling at someone in the background. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I answered out of habit. A young woman's voice, barely a whisper. Hi, is this Mrs. Talbot? Emily's mom? Yes, I said slowly. Who's calling? I'm Rachel. I work with her. I don't know if I should even be calling you, but I found your number online through one of the volunteer directories and, listen, I think something's wrong. The blood drained from my face. Rachel told me Emily had missed 3 days of work. No call, no email. She wasn't picking up her phone. Her co-workers assumed she was sick, but Rachel, who had once caught a glimpse of a purple bruise under Emily's sleeve, wasn't so sure. She sounded scared. So was I. I hung up and paced the room like a trapped animal. I couldn't storm over to Emily's house. I didn't have the legal right. But I did have something better, a thick journal, a timeline of emotional manipulation, bruises, lies, and behavioral red flags. I called the local women's advocacy center and asked for their legal consultant. I told them everything. I sent photos, journal scans, witness quotes. They looped in someone from the sheriff's department who specialized in domestic cases. That same afternoon, a welfare check was dispatched. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. But I got the call. Emily had been found at home, alive, but barely coherent. The officer noted she had a swollen lip, bruises along her ribs, and when asked what happened, she muttered, I fell into the kitchen counter. Classic. Travis wasn't there. Neighbors said he'd left that morning with a suitcase. No one had seen him since. I wanted to rush to her bedside, hold her hand, say, "I told you so," but I didn't. I let the professionals do their job. Emily was taken to the hospital under protective watch. The police opened an investigation. And Travis? Well, it turns out my journal wasn't the first time someone had reported him. There had been another woman. In Nebraska. Same pattern, love bombing, isolation, control, then violence. That one ended with a restraining order and a shattered jaw. I'd tried to warn Emily. She thought I was meddling. Overbearing. Judgmental. I wasn't. I was right. But being right doesn't feel good when your child is broken. That night, I sat on the motel bed, staring at my journal, now more like a case file than a diary, and I cried harder than I had since Robert died. Not because I was angry. Not even because I was scared. But because the worst had finally happened, and part of me had expected it. Had waited for it. Had prepared for it. And that's the cruelest part of being a mother. You know the storm is coming. And you stand still anyway. Emily didn't ask for me when she was taken to the hospital. She asked for no one. And for 3 days, I respected that. But on the 4th day, the nurse called. Her tone was gentle, but firm. She's awake. She's asking if you're still around. I don't remember getting dressed. I don't remember driving. I just remember standing outside her hospital room, my hand on the door, afraid to walk into the place I'd waited so long to reach. And then, I did. There she was. My daughter. Black eye. Split lip. 4 in her arm. But still mine. Still my baby girl under all that hurt. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Mom. I nodded. I didn't rush in. I didn't scold. I didn't say I told you so. I just stepped to the side of her bed and said, I'm here. She blinked at me, long, slow, exhausted. You were right. I shook my head. Doesn't matter. No. It does, she whispered. You were right. And I hated you for it. A tear slid down her cheek. I needed to hate someone, she said. Because I couldn't admit I hated him. I reached out and held her hand. She flinched at first, then relaxed into it like she was 6 years old again, hiding under her blanket during a thunderstorm. He said he'd change, she murmured. That he loved me. That no one else would. And I believed him. I thought you were jealous. Controlling. I thought. Her words broke apart like glass underfoot. I stroked her hand, her knuckles bruised and swollen. He wanted you to believe that. That's how they win. The silence between us was heavy, but healing. After she was discharged, she moved in with me. Not into the motel. By then, I'd found a small rental home across town. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a little kitchen with a creaky oven that I never quite figured out. She didn't say much for a while. Mostly sat on the couch, curled up in oversized hoodies, staring at the TV without watching. Trauma steals your voice, I'd learned. I didn't rush her. And then, one day, she asked if she could read my journal. I hesitated. It's not polished. I know, she said. That's why I want to read it. She read every page, every dated entry, every observation I jotted down through tears and fear. When she finished, she closed the journal and whispered, You didn't stop watching me. Never, I said. Even when you hated me. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed, face hollow. That's what saved me. Emily began therapy. She volunteered at a shelter, quietly, anonymously. Sometimes she sat in the back of group sessions and just listened. Sometimes she stayed after to help mop the floor. She didn't talk about Travis much. Not at first. And me? I didn't pretend everything was okay. I didn't rewrite the past to make her feel better. But I also didn't hold her pain against her. One afternoon, we sat on the back porch, drinking lukewarm tea. The sky was overcast. Rain was threatening, but hadn't yet arrived. She turned to me and said, "You know what I remember most about that day?" I didn't answer. "When I threw your stuff out. When I told the neighbors you were crazy. You didn't scream. You didn't fight. You just left." I nodded slowly. "You were the only person who didn't try to control me. And that's how I knew, eventually, that you loved me more than he ever did." I stared at her, the words wrapping around my heart like stitches over an old wound. Emily is still healing. So am I. Some days are hard. Some days are beautiful. But every day, we show up. We talk. We argue. We cook dinner. We laugh at old photos. We exist in the same space without fear, without control. That's all I ever wanted. People think motherhood ends when your child grows up. That it's a job with an expiration date. But let me tell you the truth. Motherhood is the act of staying. Even when you're hated. Even when your name is screamed in anger. Even when your photo ends up cracked in a trash bag on the front lawn. You stay. Not in their house, but in their life. Quiet. Watching. Ready. Because one day, the door opens again. And all that love you carried in silence finally gets heard.